D&D already has a lot of ways for you to cover classic RPG classes and things like that, if that's what you're looking to play. One of the most entertaining classes, in my opinion, from Final Fantasy is the Dragoon class, which is basically where you wear heavy armor, have a big old lance, and you do a lot of jumping. While you might not think that this is something that you can do in D&D easily, it is in fact something you can do quite easily thanks to the Griffin Saddlebag subclass, the Steel Hawk, which is a fighter subclass, which is always good because it means we get to build a fighter. So let's do that. Right, we're going to do this a little bit back to front. We're going to start with our species. We're going to go for the quick step because we want a lot of movement speed. I believe this is from the Book of Ebb and Tides. This gives us a speed of 50 feet, which is pretty darn fast. And it also means that a number of rounds equal to our level. If we've moved 10 feet on our turn, creatures have disadvantage on any attack rolls against us until our next turn, which is pretty darn good. It also means we're small, and it just brings me joy to be a little dude in armor jumping around. For our background, we are going for the Mythos Investigator, which is from the Cthulhu by Torchlight book, and grants us access to all of the origin feat we're going for is I survived to tell the tale, which not only lets us jump back up from 0 hit points once per long rest, and gives us a great way to get out of grapple checks. It also gives us a plus 10 to our speed, which means that we are starting off with a 60-foot walking speed, which is pretty quick, to say the least. In terms of stats, what we're going for here is 17, 14, 15, 8, 10, 10. We're putting our plus 2 in strength, our plus 1 in dex, and we're having alright stats across the board apart from intelligence. We're going to be a strength-based build, but dexterity is also handy to have generally as a fighter, and same with constitution. The last thing that I need to go into detail about is the weapon we'll be using. The lance is good, solid option. The Steelhawk subclass gives us a boost to that in general. The specific weapon that we're going to be using is one of the advanced melee weapons from Grim Hollow's Player's Guide. I appreciate you might not be able to get your hands on this straight away. It might be something that your DM wants to keep at a later level, and I think that's reasonable. But I will be basing the numbers on this because that's what I've done the numbers on, and it would be unreasonable for me to do otherwise. Plus, I like using as many third-party things as I can. The reason we are doing the Knightly Lance is not because it does 2d6 piercing, although that is pretty good. It's for two of the other things it has. First of all, it has momentum, which means that as long as we've moved 20 feet in a straight line at some point during our turn before we attack, the damage die gets upgraded from a 2d6 to 2d10, which is strong, obviously. Hence why we needed so much movement speed. It also has the set property. The set property reads, weapons with a set property allow you to prepare for an oncoming attack. If a target enters your reach while you wield a weapon with this property, you can use your reaction to make a melee attack with the weapon against that target. Which basically means we've got is it the Polar Master feat that does that kind of thing? It means that we've got a reliable way to attack with our reaction outside of just opportunity attacks, and I think it's reliable now enough where I can include that in my numbers, which is also what I've done. From there, in terms of traits and all of that good stuff, that's entirely up to you. You pick what you want to do. Fighting style, we do need advanced weapon proficiency in order to actually use the Knightly Lance to its full capacity. We obviously get second wind, and then for the weapon masteries, you'll want to take the Knightly Lance, but you can't do that with the normal weapon masteries because D&D Beyond can be quite frustrating. I've taken Lance, Pike, and Javelin, but yes, I would talk to your DM and make sure that you have the Knightly Lance weapon mastery. With all of that in mind, and I appreciate that's more preamble than I normally go for, a lot of kind of terms and conditions for the build, but our attack on its own will do 2d10 plus 3 because our strength mod is plus 3, which gives us 14 damage. And our reaction attack, which obviously we're not going to be moving for, is 2d6 plus 3, which is 10 damage. This gives us a total damage per round of 24 at level 1, which is broken, flat out broken, which is why I think it's perfectly reasonable if your DM does not want to give you the Knightly Lance to begin with. I think they should give it to you eventually, because you're a fighter, but yes. That's that. As we hit level 2, we get one of the coolest features of fighters, which is obviously Action Surge. This allows us to just take another action. This gets better the more attacks we get, which is always nice. And we do get another one at level 17, but I'm not taking this build that far, as you will see. We are going to level 14 with it for reasons. At level 2 though, if you include the Action Surge attack, which is what I will be doing going forwards, we're now doing 38 damage a round. On the first round at the very least. After that you're dropping one of those attacks, but that's still is probably enough to finish off most creatures. At level 3 we get a subclass, which means we get the Steel Hawk is a banger. You get a bunch of really cool features. Launch, and I am going to summarize this, allows you to use your bonus action to leap horizontally, vertically, or a combination of both, up to a combined distance of 15 feet. you can leap 10 feet. It goes into examples of the specifics here, and the leap goes up to 30 feet at level 7 as well. You do need to have speed to be able to use this, which is obviously worth noting, and you can use this 3 times, but you get all uses back on a short or long rest, because this also gives us a boost to our damage every time we use this, with it starting off as an extra 1d8 of damage of the weapons type, and it going up to 1d10 at level 10 and 1d12 at level 18. You have to make the attack as soon as you've done the leap. So basically, your turns from this point onward are going to be you making sure you're at least 20 feet away from someone, moving 5 feet forward, jumping 15 feet towards them, and then just laying into them with a lance. Along with this, if you're using a traditional lance, you can use it with one hand, even if you're not mounted, and you can have it deal 1d12 after you've used your launch feature, which means you're actually getting a boost to the traditional launch if that's what you are using. Along with that, if you hit a creature, you can move 5 feet away from it without provoking opportunity attacks, but you do need to have the movement available to do so, which means we can kind of disengage as well, which is great because we can disengage and move back in order to trigger the reaction attack when a creature chases after us. We're also really good at talking to birds. It's a nice ribbon feature. The extra d8 doesn't do a huge amount for our damage, but it does boost us up to 42.5. Level 4, we get another weapon mastery. It just doesn't matter. We are a one-trick birdie, I guess. This feat option is more complicated than you might think. If you're using the original lance, that is a heavy weapon. The knightly lance is not. If you're using the original lance, therefore, Great Weapon Master is not a bad one to take. It also would make more sense as your weapon mastery, probably to take Great Weapon Fighting. Sentinel isn't a bad one because we are using our reaction to attack a fair amount as an opportunity attack, so that's always good. Although I can't remember if that actually affects set, but it's not something I'm putting this build around anyway. Piercer is also good. It boosts our damage when we crit, which is good. We'll be doing a lot of that later, but probably not a lot of that now. Brutal Grip is good because it lets us hold 2 versatile weapons and to treat them as though they have the light property, which means that because the lance is now versatile for us, you could theoretically attack with a knightly lance and then use your bonus action to attack with your normal lance if you want something else to do with your bonus action. However, I thought it would be fun to just lean into the theme of moving a lot, so I'm going to go with Charger. We're going to boost our strength to 18 here, so we've got a +4 modifier instead of a +3, which is always nice. If we take the dash action, we get an extra 10 feet. Not that we'll be doing that a huge amount, but it's always good to know. Moved at least 20 feet in a straight line. You can either add an extra 1d8 to your attack's damage roll, or you can push the target up to 10 feet away from you. You can only do this once per turn, which is a shame, because it'd be fun to just go back and forth, but it's still 1d8. Between the 1d8 extra damage and the boost to our ability modifier, we are now doing 50 total damage. At level 5, we get extra attack and tactical shift. Extra attack is good, as it turns out, so that's fun. With the extra attack, we have 4 attacks now because of Action Surge plus the reaction attack, which is a pretty sizable boost to our damage. The first attack, with the launch feature and the charger feature, we're doing an additional 2d8 on top of the 2d10 plus the 4, so that's 24 damage on average. And then all of the other attacks that we're doing on our turn are 2d10 plus 4, with our reaction attack being 2d10, 2d6 plus 4. That gives us a total of 80 damage. 80 is a lot at level 5. That is potentially against one creature, but you could also hit multiple creatures with this because you're getting so many attacks. So yay. At level 6 we get another ASI because we are a fighter, and I just love building fighters because of that. Any of the options I mentioned earlier are definitely good options. I will be taking the Piercer feat because it allows us to re-roll our damage dice once per turn, which is nice, and an additional. It means that when we critical hit, we can also roll another dice when determining the damage, so that's always good. We are, of course, going to be boosting our strength up to 19. This doesn't do anything for our damage. We are still at 80 damage. I'm not factoring in crits for this build because I'm not specifically crit fishing. Level 7, we get Steel Grace, which is nice because it means that wearing armor does not impose disadvantage to our stealth checks. Also, we can use our launch feature as a reaction when you make a dexterity saving throw, which is fun. Nothing for our damage though. Level 8, again, any of the previous options are good ones, and I think that any of those would be good choices depending on how you want to play. I am going to take Focused Critical here to give us a chance to crit on a 19 or 20 because we are making a lot of attacks. 5 attacks on the first round with a reaction is a lot of chances to crit. As it turns out. This also bumps our strength to 20, which means we get an additional point of damage on each of those 5 attacks, so we go from 80 to 85. Level 9 lets us use Push, Sap, or Slow whenever we hit with a weapon that has a mastery property that we can use, so we can use that instead which is nice, but not something we're probably going to be doing a lot of. We also get Indomitable, which means we're better at saving throw. Level 10, we get another Weapon Mastery, and again, you can just pick whatever you want. You also get Eagle Eye, which is nice. So our attacks can crit on a 19 or 20 if we use the attack immediately after the launch feature, which we are doing, which should stack with Focus Critical, so that would be 18 to 20 on one of those attacks, which is pretty decent. Along with that, it boosts our launch damage from 1d8 to 1d10, which is a whole 1 point more of damage on average. When you see people talking about the damage boosts the marshals get, it is really worth noting that boosting a damage die by one size is usually just 1 point of damage extra, and by two sizes is 2 points, which is why the Ranger's level 20 feature, going from a d6 to a d10 on your Hunter's Mark, is so utterly underwhelming, especially even if you just compare it to the Fighter's 20th level feature, where you get a 4th attack. One more attack is a lot more damage extra than Hunter's Mark is. I digress. At level 11, we get 2 extra attacks. 2 extra attacks! This is a huge boost to our damage because it adds an extra attack to both our attack action and our action surged attack action, which means that our total damage at this point per turn, including the reaction attack, is 118, which at level 18 is preposterous. Again, I completely understand if your DM wants you to work for the Knightly Lance. It is a very strong weapon. Now, there are a few different ways you can take this build from here, basically. If you wanted to invest more points in Charisma or something at the beginning of the build, you could go into Paladin, for example. So you can do Smites or something else as you level up. You could just straight class to the end of Fighter, pick up a bunch of cool feats, be done with it. Not a problem either. I did want to do something a little fancier, so we're going to take some levels in Barbarian here, just to see what it does for our damage. This does mean that we need to not be wearing heavy armor to do the rage, which is not the end of the world. Medium armor is still fine. So, and again, we get some more weapon masteries, which is really important because we just don't have enough weapon masteries, you know. The key thing here is that it gives us rage, which means that we can rage. So we rage on turn 1, do a couple hits, and then on turn 2 we go all in with a launch feature and everything else. Rage adds 2 damage to every one of our attacks, and because we're making so many of them, it actually means that we jump up from 118 to 132, because we are at this point making 7 attacks per round, which is a lot. That's on the first one. So then at level 2 we get Reckless Attack. This is level 13 for the build. This means that we are always attacking with advantage, which means that our focused critical suddenly looks a lot better. In fact, with the various boosts we've taken to our crit chance, it gives us a roughly an 80% chance to crit per turn, at least on the first turn, where the damage is not only doubled but slightly more than that because of the Piercer feat. And that's to say nothing if you're just really lucky, which I wouldn't know anything about. Couldn't be me. We're going to take one more level here, and I'm going to take the Path of the Berserker purely because it lets us deal extra damage on one of our attacks. It lets us add 2d6 to our attack, which takes us up from 132 to 139 average damage. I looked at a bunch of the Barbarian subclasses, and I don't think many of them fit what we're really going for. There's also the built-in anti-synergy of being a fighter that can wear heavy armor and being a Barbarian. Again, I think you can absolutely just straight class this and have a lot of fun with it. I think you could do other stuff if you choose slightly different starting stats, if that's what you want to do. I just wanted to see how much it would affect it. So from level 11 to level 14, we've gone from 118 to 139 damage. So it's an extra 21 damage on the second round because of how we're doing things now. You've also now got resistance to 3 damage types, not to mention advantage in all your attacks, which means a much higher chance to crit. So I think it's worth it. I also completely understand if it's not something you want to do. Rogue was something I was considering, but realistically you can only sneak attack once and it's not really worth it. Plus we're not using a finesse weapon or a ranged weapon, so that's not going to work for us. There's also arguments for Monster Hunter to do studied response, but we're already doing that because of the set thing anyway. It's probably best just as a straight fighter because then you get everything you want to get. I just wanted to see what I could eke out in a few levels. Anyway, that's it for the build, which is entirely around hopping about like a crazed Yoda with a lance. It brings me joy to have used this subclass in a build. I like the image it presents, and hopefully this means that I can also get it out of my head. I've put it out now into the internet. It is someone else's problem, not mine. If you enjoyed this, please do like and subscribe. I think the next build video I'm going to do is going to be trying to make the Scion of the 3 as good as possible. And at the moment, the most logical way to do that might be to take 3 levels in Wizard for Bladesinger. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, if you want to see that, do subscribe. I'm also doing reviews and stuff, and it's review season at the moment because all of the Wizards of the Coast books are coming out right now. Hopefully we'll get some more third-party stuff as well soon. I'm excited about anything we might get. Another Griffin Saddlebag book would be exceptional. I'd love the other part of Heliana's Guide to Monster Hunting, and so many other things I would love to see on D&D Beyond. But for now, it is time we said goodbye, and parting is such sweet sorrow. But, you know, we'll all live. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful week. Do take care. And until next time, goodbye.